All right. Welcome back to episode number 61 of the Idols to Rivals podcast. So if you didn't know, this is a podcast that's filmed every Wednesday and uploaded normally Wednesday night or Thursday morning, depending on how late we film the episode. We got a late one tonight, but this one's a little bit different and we'll get into that in half a second. So if you didn't know, if you haven't listened before, like I said, this is uploaded every Wednesday. We do an audio version. We do a video version on YouTube. If you search Idols to Rivals, you'll find it. It's also available on Spotify, SoundCloud, or I guess not SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that good stuff, anywhere you can find a podcast. And this week we have, a local celebrity around here. One of my fraternity brothers, a guy I've known for, I believe, 4 years at this point, but really started getting close over the past, year and a half. Welcome Cruz Ocenreider to the podcast.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming. It has been about 4 years, and it's coming up on the year and a half mark right now. So we've been going back and forth for a while.
So I believe it was Nick, another one of our fraternity brothers, that really introduced, and I believe it was at Innisfree, which is a bar in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Oh, yeah. Was that the first time we really kind of hung out and kind of got after it?
Pretty much. So when I got done with school at Bama, I hardly ever went by the house anymore. So I never really met a lot of the young guys. And then, it was Innisfree. I was there, and then me and you just instantly hit it off. We were doing car bombs. We were just chilling. We were vibing. We were talking. I remember that weekend. It was Halloween weekend. So I remember exactly. I had so much fun that whole day was was nuts.
Well, yeah. And I show up to the table, I'm a little late per usual, and I show up and I obviously knew what Irish car bombs were, but I didn't quite realize I was coming to the table of Irish car bombs.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even sit down before Nick's like, all right, here's what we're doing. Here's how many we're doing. If you're last, you're buying the next round. Let's go. And I was like, holy shit, this is what these boys are on right now.
Oh yeah. We were on one. We were literally the first people at Innisfree on Halloween day. We woke up early Saturday morning. We were the first people in line, which is saying something, and it was so much fun, man. It was because I only get to go back once, maybe twice a year now. So when I go back, I live it up to the most.
Right. And it was incredible. Like I said, I don't think I'd ever done one, and I didn't realize that you had to do it before curdles. So I'm sitting there, and I thankfully don't think I got last too many times, but I definitely was drinking the curdled milk just to not embarrass myself at the table of just these demons just hammering these down left and right. It was quite a sight to see. But yeah, so like you were saying, that was really the first time it was Halloween weekend, which is always an absolute time in any college town. I'm sure if you went to any big school, Florida, FSU, Arizona, I know all those schools throw it down. Halloween's the best holiday in college. Would you agree with that?
I would say, man, I don't know. St. Patty's Day was always
that's a good one of
mine. Only because it was always in the middle of the week, and I would skip class, and I would go straight to Innisfree. But I mean, Halloween's tough to beat too, because it's just you can just dress ridiculous if you want. The girls look amazing. There's just there's always parties going on. It was tough. St. Patty's Day edges it out a tad bit for me, but dude, Halloween is literally neck and neck. And then when you become an adult and you get out of college, dude, I think Halloween now is just so much work. It really is.
Yeah, getting the prep work in. And I think that was the fun of it in college, was because you didn't have shit else to do. You do your one homework assignment, and then you can just, I think in college, Halloween's 5 days. It's not a day, it's 5 days straight. I think I wore the same shit. I'm not here for Instagram photos. I wore a vampire costume, I think, for 5 days straight.
Dude, I love that. No, I can remember a few of the costumes I had. I had the Gumby outfit.
Oh, it's a classic.
My pledgeship year, my date wanted to go as a mouse from Mean Girls, so I had to go. It was something stupid, so I had to go as a mouse too. And then I went as Dick in a Box one year. I remember that. And then my favorite one that I ever went on, I went as Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, and my date went as Pikachu. We rocked that one. That was by far my favorite one. My date wasn't all that great, but our costumes, the picture it's top notch.
I feel like it is. It's the Halloweens where your date either, guy or girl, it doesn't really matter, but your date kind of blows. So you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna have fun. I'm dressed ridiculous. I'm with all my friends that look stupid too, and I'm just gonna have a time out at the bar.
Yeah, I learned in college, man. Like I had so much fun. And once I realized this too, I had so much more fun going out with my friends. To like date parties and formals and just like even nights out of the bar, not bringing a date. Like it was just so much more fun because it's just like I got to like this mindset like in college, like the chances of me meeting the person I'm going to marry in college or end up with is very, very slim. And it obviously did not turn out that way. So I was correct. So like once I realized that, I just started having way more fun and I started becoming a lot closer with my like actual fraternity brothers and pledge brothers. And like I highly recommend to like the younger people too, like don't like enjoy the moments you have like with your actual college friends, because like once you get out, like you're gonna miss like being able to just call them up, be like, hey, like let's go grab a drink at Innisfree, or like let's go to Bear Trap, or like let's go to Midnight Sushi and stuff like that. So like I highly recommend that. That's probably like one of the biggest like pieces of advice I can give to like any college kid.
And I think that comes after, because I had the exact same epiphany, because it is, I mean, you're the whole time, all you're doing the first 2 or 3 years is just, you're chasing tail the whole time. That's what it's, I mean, that's what we're all doing. It's kind of the name of the game, but it's those later years, if you do a victory lap, like your boy here, it's those later years where you realize, just grabbing a beer and then grabbing some wings and just hanging out. Those are the things like when you're sitting there, when you all get real jobs, you all live in different cities across the country, across the globe. In some cases, it is those little times where you're like, shit, I wish I could walk across the street, see my best friends, and just grab a drink and chill. It's those things that go underappreciated. But absolutely. I think we're jumping the gun here a little bit. Let's get a little bit of backstory. We'll get into why Cruz is on the podcast here a little bit later on. And if you're watching on the YouTube version, which I recommend, I think it's the better version. I say it every episode. You might see a little bit of a logo in the background here, with some special effects. But give us kind of a rundown. Even some stuff that I probably don't know about. Just growing up, how you got to school, and we'll touch on the Alabama stuff, because I think a lot of people are very curious, just with the reputation it's been getting, especially even now this week with the whole TikTok stuff that's going on. It's the aura around it has grown even more, but kind of give a rundown of how you got to that beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a military brat. I was actually born in Maine, of all places. I don't remember a lot about it. Parents had me super young. I mean, my parents had me as teenagers. So I grew up extremely young. And so I bounced around. Like my like whole childhood was basically like I didn't live in a place like longer than 2 or 3 years most of the time. So like I had to adapt really early, like because there are 2 types of military kids. There's the ones that adapted like I did, who try and make the most out of every situation, trying to make new friends, trying to be open-minded, trying to not be a problem child. And then you have the ones that just like shut down and they're reclusive and they're not social. And then those are the kids that go like insane when they get to college or high school, or they just don't develop like personal like skills, and it hurts them. So luckily I was one of the ones who made the most out of situations. And then it was in high school we moved to middle school we moved to Mobile, Alabama. That's really where I kind of like grew up. It's where I call home. Like that's home to me. Like Mobile, Alabama will always be my home. And so it's where I met my real friends. And granted, I'm not close with a ton of people I went to high school with too, but there's some people I would still go back for if they ever needed me. And a lot of people know this already, but I grew up a huge Florida Gator fan because of my parents. And so that was my dream school. It was the only school I wanted to go to. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to school there for a year. But it wasn't me. I got there and I wasn't ready for it. I was like so underprepared for it. My parents were pretty strict in high school. So I didn't drink. I didn't have sex. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do anything in high school. I went to parties, but I was always the DD. My friends were like terrified of my parents. And so, my friends never let me drink at all. And I played football, and I was a decent athlete in high school, and I was popular towards the end of it. But they were like, "You're not allowed to drink. Like, if you had a beer in your hand, like they would take it," kind of thing. So,
Right.
So when I got to college, like literally the second night I was there, I went to a fraternity party, and I got absolutely hammered, first time ever, and it was just like, whoa. And I didn't know what moderation was. I didn't know what self-control was. Like I lost my virginity in college, like everything, like within like the first like couple weeks. So I just went like absolutely nuts. Right. And like mentally, I was just like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I didn't know like what I was doing. So
and this happened after like the coin flipped. You've done everything that you've never been allowed to do.
Exactly.
It was that quick that oh my God, who the hell am I?
I burned out so fast, man. Like everything just happened so fast. Like before I knew it, like it was Thanksgiving break. Like I blinked and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I hit the freshman 20. I didn't even recognize myself. It was just like, holy shit. I don't know who I am, kind of thing. And it was ridiculous. So I made the decision. I was like, look, I can't be here anymore. Like I can't do this place anymore. So I visited both schools. I looked at Alabama and Auburn because I had friends that went to both schools from high school. And I thought it would be best to be around a group of people that I was comfortable with. And I knew, because I knew zero people when I went to Florida. I knew zero people. So I did not have a really good support system. And so I visited both schools, fell in love with both of them, and I actually flipped the coin. I flipped the coin.
Dead ass grabbed the coin.
Dead ass.
You were that close to going to Auburn?
Yeah, 100%. There was a 50-50 shot, man. I left it. I literally left it to chance. I left it to fate. I was like, I'm just going to let fate decide.
That's respect. That's a wild move. I've talked about that as a metaphor. I've never quite done it.
I tell people that too. They're like, bullshit. I'm like, no, seriously. Like my parents watched me do it. Like dead ass. like they watched me do it. And it was just like, all right, I'm going to Tuscaloosa. So put up my application and transfer. And man, the best decision I ever made. It was something, and don't get me wrong, I love the University of Florida still. My parents still cheer for them. And I still have a great friends that went there who I still talk to, but for my mental health and for just my well-being, me being there was not a good option. So I did my full year there, man. And I was just like, okay, this is just, I can't do this anymore.
Do you think that was because you're flying solo?
Yeah, man. I think there was a lot that went into it. So at 16, I got diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. And I never knew it. We never knew it. We just thought it was ADHD, which it was a form of it. And then we found out I had serious depression and anxiety. So it was just a lot that went into it. And then I never took it serious, as serious as I should have as a teenager. Because when you're a teenager, you're just you get labeled, especially when you grow up in a small town like Alabama. So when everyone found out about my mental health and everything that went along with it, I kind of got labeled, and so it was just a lot. So I kind of just tried to not be that person or have that reputation anymore. So my senior year of high school, we actually moved to Los Angeles, California. So from Mobile, and no one knew anything about me. So I got to hide it for a while. And I made friends pretty quickly there just through sports and I got to finish the rest of the school year. Yeah. But when I went to Florida, man, I knew zero people. I met people through Rush, but I just met those people through drinking and them wanting me to be in a fraternity with them. So I didn't know them. And then once I started to know them, it was too late at that point. I was just, they knew who Cruz was as the fun drunk or the fun party guy. And so it just kind of they never really got to know the real me until by the time they got to know the real me, it was way too late.
You're mentally already checked out of Florida. You're already done with it.
Exactly. So I there's a part of me that always regrets what happened at UF. Cause I wish And my parents said this too. We talked about this probably not so long ago, because my sister's in college now, and she didn't have the same experience I did. She went to a boarding school, so like she got to like be away from mom and dad for a while, out from under their rule. But like, dude, like I was like just. I didn't even know like the thought of like getting drunk was like at all. So like when the moment I found out what it was, I'm like, holy shit, like this is what I've been missing. Like, this is so much fun. And then I got to like actually be with like girls find you attractive and like things like that. You're like, whoa, I've been missing out on this for years. So like the moment you get like a tiny little taste of it and then it's just shoved in your face 24/7, like it's just like you lose so much like time and you don't even realize it. So I just like highly encourage parents to like, I'm not saying like let your 16-year-old go get drunk, but like, like let them experiment, like let them, try a beer, let them, go to parties, like let them miss curfew for a little bit. And things like that. Cause like by the time they get to college, man, like it's just everything's in your face. And this too, like everything's just thrown in your face at once. And you just don't like know which way to look or like how to stop, especially being a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid.
Right. And I think that was the big thing realizing too was, and I agree with what you were saying, and we had something in our house where it was when you turned 18, it was like, okay, like, have friends over, you got to stay in the basement. Everybody's keys are going upstairs. They're gone. And it was, you get drunk, you play 2K and you just like fucking pass out and have fun. And I think that is a crucial step. Cause you do got to know, I mean, what it sounds like to me is you skipped like the drunk buzz. And it was just like your first experience of drinking is just a straight blackout, which is 100%. Wild to dip your toe into the water going off the deep end, but I see that happen with a lot of people. Those are the people that normally make it a semester at Alabama. The joke I always make is you're either at Alabama for a semester or you're there for 5 years. I mean, it's like one of the two. You lose people after pledgeship, everybody's gone because we realize they all flunked out, shit like that. And so I do think that as a parent, you gotta let them, especially it was really big with my sisters, was they were like, we can't have you, however the world is, and we all know how it is. So I'm not even gonna fucking sugarcoat it, but having them especially was, encouraging them like, hey, sit at home, hang with the family, catch a buzz and understand this is what it feels like. This is what's going to happen to you. This is what you think, like things like that. And so I do think that is a huge, crucial step. But yeah, so you finished out the full year at Florida, correct? And did you go straight from LA or from California to UF? Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't.
I left immediately. Like I graduated high school in Los Angeles, and I got the hell out of there. Like my parents were in LA for till my junior year at Bama. So yeah, like it was. So yeah, I got the hell out of there, man. Like I had to. So and Los Angeles is great, but like. You go growing up everywhere in the South. So I went from lower Alabama to Los Angeles, California. So it's a huge, I was living in this place called Palos Verdes. And it's like this, like there's actually like a Disney Channel movie about it. Double Teamed, about the basketball playing
twins. Dirt Bike Girls?
No. It's the basketball playing twins.
Oh, the twins.
Yeah, dude, I went to that high school. Like the national championship banner is like hanging up in the rafters. And then the basketball coach, last name Yoshida, it was the athletic director.
That's a true story?
Yes, 100% true story.
Two monster blonde twins fucking win the Natty.
One of them is a teacher at the high school. So like it's a 100% real. Like I went to that high school for a year. It's insane. It was like, dude, I went there and like I went from wearing uniforms every day in preppy Southern Alabama to I walk in my first day of school in Los Angeles and like they're literally kids like wearing PJs like stoned off their ass. And it's just like
must have been, especially for you know, having not experienced that. And I don't know how it was down, South Alabama, but there was kind of a weed community in my high school, but it really like it wasn't as big. No. Yeah, it wasn't huge. And I grew up in Houston, and it wasn't really big compared to what I imagine California high school would be like, especially as someone who's never experienced it. Must have been like a slap in the fucking face.
Oh, dude, like it was insane, man. I had like There were like kids who had like medicinal, like medical marijuana, just like, and like you, and then you see like the kids that were in high school, they were like smoking stuff out of like that came in like a tinfoil bag. So I was just like, yeah, from Alabama, and like I was just like, holy shit, man. I'm like, what? Like, where am I? So that was like the kind of culture shocks like I had to go through like growing up. I've been everywhere, and it's so funny because like when I got to college, I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Like if I can go from living in South Alabama to Los Angeles, California, like I can go to Gainesville, Florida, and make it. But like again, when no one's looking, what you do when no one's looking, like it's so dangerous, especially at that age. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure like the moment like my parents like left me, like they helped me move into my apartments. Because I lived in an off-campus apartment my freshman year at UF. Like, I think the moment they left, like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I've never been alone before. And neither of my roommates. And so, like, and one of my roommates in Florida got arrested for selling cocaine.
There you go.
Like, yeah. So it's like, one was a pothead. One got arrested for selling cocaine. I was just getting drunk all the time. And then my other roommate was an engineering student who ended up knocking a girl up, so like, that's what happens when you have 4 18-year-olds who have never been able to get under the thumb of mom and dad. That's what happens when they live together. And so, yeah, getting out of there was one of the best, like it saved my life, honestly.
Do you think that is why you have, I like to call it the silver tongue, why you can speak. And I mean, obviously the podcast, and everything like that, but can make friends with a fucking brick wall because of the bouncing around, the moving, the adapting is because
100%.
of all that.
100%. Like so when I was younger, I made connections and which I call them friends, like in quotations. Like I was always the new kid. So like I was always kind of like, it was always hard for me to fit in, but I always found a way, rather that be from being the punching bag of everyone's joke to, just trying to fit in some way. But I've always learned to be able to like talk to anybody. And then once I got to high school, it was a little bit easier for me because I started playing sports, started, getting involved in school, because I really wanted to go to college and make something of myself. So like, yeah, I think so. I've never had a problem talking to anybody in my entire life. Like I have been able to, I'll put it like this. There was my freshman year of high school, there was a kid who had a list of like, and he ended up getting arrested because he was going to allegedly.
We've had one of those as well.
Yeah. So like I was friends with him. And so like I wasn't on that list.
Honestly, the best move to be nice to the quiet kid. Just heads up. God. In the fucked up world we live in, be nice to everybody just in case.
He wore bunny ears every day.
Oh God.
Every day. So I just remember like just sitting next to him every day, and I would always talk to him. Like we'd always talk about some like weird stuff, but like and he was a nice kid. He was just like, he just got bullied relentlessly, which I knew what that's like. Like I used to get bullied relentlessly all the time growing up. So like I got it. I just didn't do it to him because like once I got out, being able to be bullied, like picked on, like I used to just always, and I still do, like I hate, like I cannot tolerate bullies like whatsoever. I don't care how old you are. Like even if you're a grown ass man and you're belittling like a coworker, like I can't stand it. So, but yeah, like I just remember like the entire class except me was on that list, and I was just like, huh, that's a pretty good compliment.
In a fucked up way, that's a big compliment. No, but I agree, and I think it's the people that did get fucking just picked on to shit that are the ones that are the first. I mean, that's how I was. It was the kids sitting alone at the cafeteria. I mean, it's not like I had a bunch of friends that I was leaving to go sit with, but it was like, you know what? If you're going to sit alone, fuck it, I'll sit with you. I don't give a shit. And it took the years of just fucking getting destroyed to be like, you know what? Fuck them. Like, I'll sit with you. I don't care what you got a stuttering problem or like the, special needs kids that we'd have in there, which that is one thing that will fuck it. I'll jump off a fucking balcony and kill a motherfucker for that. Yeah. But it's the people that I think are the most successful are the ones that can sympathize, that took the ringing early on. And then all the bullies that I know are they're losers. They're back at home. They're absolute losers because they never had that push of just feeling like shit and being like, I got two decisions. I can either sit here and wallow in this, or I could show them up and make myself the best that I've ever been in my life.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to go back last year, even during COVID, to my 10-year reunion for high school.
Damn, old man.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm telling you, like, dude, I'm 29 now, man. Like,
I know. Happy late birthday, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
29-year-old in the house.
Sipping on my sponsor bottle of Hornitos right now.
Yeah, you want to do a little ad lib real quick.
Oh yeah.
Let's hear about this.
Oh man, yeah. So I was lucky enough to be sponsored by Hornado's tequila, man, and it was very humbling. So like I've been doing this podcast for a while, and so they recently sponsored me. So they sent me some bottles. So I've just been, it's been really good. I'm not usually a tequila person, but like I love sipping this stuff on the rocks, and it just makes me feel more sophisticated than I actually am. So
do they have different, I don't know if flavor is the right word. It shows you how much of an intellectual drinker I am. But
they have a dark and a light.
Okay. Yeah, dark and a light. That seems pretty par for the course. What are you sipping on right now? What do you got?
I'm sipping on the light. Yeah.
There you go. It's just it's a Wednesday, keeping it chill, keeping it chill.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to, I was like, I figured we'd have a real talk. So I was like, all right, let me sip on a little something. But no, man. So I went back to my reunion, and I made a point to ball out that weekend. I got like a new suit, bought a new pair of Jordans. I got like a new watch. Like, dude, I wanted to look good. I wanted to, like high school was not where I peaked. And I'm okay with that. Like I would rather be a loser in high school, or, not like be like the most like popular kid in high school, if that means that everything else is downhill from there. So I went back, and I felt so good about myself, and the people who used to like just make me feel like shit about, like having depression or, maybe not being the ladies' man that I was, or the star athlete or the brainiac man. But I went back, and I was like, hey, like I had a great job. I had a good looking girlfriend at the time. I was, I was to a point where I was successful where I never thought I would be at the age of 16. Because of how these people made me feel. So like, I kind of like, as petty as it sounds, like I went back to like flex on, and I'm glad I did. Cause like I went to a school where I think it was, and I could be wrong on these numbers, I'm pretty sure 25 of those people only went to college and graduated out of like a huge graduation class. Like everyone else either went home or they never went to college. So like I made it a point of myself. I was like, hey, I'm going to go to a good college. And at the time I went to Florida, and then I ended up transferring to Alabama. And then, I'm going to get a degree. And then now it's like I'm in grad school for the University of Alabama right now. I just started actually today. So like it's now I'm back. They can't get rid of me. It just keeps getting more of my money. So like I know it's kind of petty, but like it's something that has honestly pushed me so much in my life to like prove these people wrong. And I don't know if it's rather me just like caring like too much about what people think, or if it's just more of like I looked at it more as a motivational factor to be like, hey, like you had this perception of like who I was at 16, and then like look at me now at 29. So that's like something I've thought a lot about, because it's been about a year now since that high school reunion. So like and to this day it's like I think about it all the time. It just makes me mad, and then I think about like where I am right now, and I'm like, damn, it's like I could be living in BFE, Alabama, working at a body shop or welding or anything like that. And all I have to look back on is, my high school football career. So
right. And I think there is a fine line there. I totally get, and I haven't gone back for reunions like that yet, but I think I'm going to play it the exact same way. And I think there is, there's that line of, oh, you care too much or blah, blah, you're doing it for them. But I think you need a little bit of that. You need to have that moment of just like, you know what, fuck you, look where I'm at. And if that's your whole life is just everybody else's opinion, obviously you're failing completely, no matter how successful you're going to be. But I think you do need a little bit of that taste in your mouth of like, dude, look at me right now. Like I'm going to leave here tomorrow, and I'm never going to worry about you guys again. And I need that moment of just like, you know what? I fucking told you. I knew this is what was going to happen.
It was great. It was a great feeling. And what's funny too, is I didn't have that a lot. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. It's probably like a couple weeks before the actual reunion. And then just like out of nowhere, man, I just like started thinking about high school a lot. I was just like, how, like, because there are times where like you think about high school, like, oh yeah, that was fun. Like prom was a good time, or like, homecoming week, or like football games and things like that. And then you like actually like stop and like you sit down, you really think about like what went down at high school and like how you like your experience really was. And you take those goggles off and you're like, wow, that was a shitty 4 years for a lot of people. And I'm not just saying just me, like a lot of people. And I just was just like, screw it. Like, I'm going to let people know like who I am right now. Like, I don't live in Alabama anymore. Like, I have no desire to ever move back to Alabama. And it has nothing to do with Alabama. It's just like, I'm just not that person anymore. Like,
if step back.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason I would ever move back to the state of Alabama would be to work for the University of Alabama. That's it.
Live in the skybox.
Yeah.
Live in the skybox. I'll be back in Tuscaloosa tomorrow.
100%.
Anyway, that's a perfect segue. So let's talk about the greatest place on earth, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and little Cruz showing up, and what ensued after that.
Man, okay, so here's what happened. So it is funny too, because I'm like, man, my parents are gonna freaking kill me. So I transferred in. I get there, live at these apartments called East Edge. I'm sure
East Edge.
If
you've been there, you know where it is.
First year ever built. I was the first person to live in one of those apartments. I really was. And so like I remember we went out and we did it was my 20th birthday. Yeah, it was my 20th birthday, and we went and we had a blast. Like we were at Harry's, like everything was fun. It was like it was a week before classes started, so we were just having a good time. And ABC rolls in, and
which, for everyone who doesn't know, what is it? Alcohol beverage control?
Yeah, alcohol beverage. They're basically like the fun police in Tuscaloosa. And so we were at this little dive bar called Harry's, where if you had a fake ID with a written by a marker, you would get in. And so we go. And all my friends are getting arrested. And I'm like noticing like no one's like looking at me. And I just start backing up, like just slowly backing up. And I fucking bolt.
Oh, yeah.
I bolt. I run from Harry's to East Edge.
Which is far. If you don't know.
That is very far. That was very, very far.
Well over probably a mile and a half.
Oh, well, yeah. I had to have been. And so like, dude, I just remember I called my parents. Like, I remember I got over the train tracks and I called my parents like, Mom, like all my friends got arrested on my birthday. I was like, I don't know what to do. She was like, you keep running. And so she was like, you just keep running and don't stop. And so I was like, oh man, like this is not good for my first couple of days. And so then it was actually bid day and I like end up meeting an older guy. His name is Anderson Moss, and to this day, like he's someone who means a lot to me, because if it wasn't for him, I never would have met the majority of my friends. And so like I met him on bid day. We lived in the apartments right next to each other, and he introduces me to a rush party, and I was like, I don't really know, because in the back of my head, like I had so many bad experiences going to fraternity parties at the UF. I just didn't want it to be a repeat. And so, but he was just so nice and so welcoming, and I was just like, I was like, screw it. Like, I'll go. Like, I'll check it out. And my roommate went with me. So, and he was rushing too. And then he ended up going like SAE because his brother went there. And so, like, I just met everybody, and I just felt so at home. Like, I felt like something, like a feeling I did not feel when I was at UF. I felt like I had finally met people who wanted to actually be friends with me. And for the first time in my life, I'd never had that feeling. Like, it was like very overwhelming. Like, I was just like, holy shit, like, this is what like it feels like to actually have like friends, like real friends. And so ended up getting a bid, immediately accepted it. And I just remember just having like so much fun, and like life was good. And man, I just think about it. It was like, it was the most fun I've ever had. And at that point, I was just like, I was finally happy. And then to segue to something a little serious, like as we briefed about it more, like I've suffered from, serious depression since I was, 16. And so it reared its ugly head again in college, especially when I was at Alabama, and it just kind of like same thing happened. And, I had a suicide attempt, and like all this stuff happened. And I was just so distraught about it. Like I thought like all this happiness I built up, like this life I built in Tuscaloosa and all these friends I made, like everything just went downhill because like now they're just going to assume like, like who is this kid? Like he's suicidal. Like we can't be around this kid. He's not mentally stable. And literally the complete opposite happened. Like they were there for me the entire time. To this day, they still are. It's insane the amount of people, like how like much we keep in touch with each other. Like even today, like one of my best friends, like FaceTime me for like, we talked for like 15 minutes and I'm going to be in his wedding and everything like that, just catching up with each other. And so like, it's insane. Like the actual friendships, like I was able to make, even after like such a dark time in my life. And so like, I cherish those moments. And so like, I think that's why the University of Alabama means so much to me, because it really is the place where like, I feel like I actually became like the person I am today. Was I the best student? Absolutely not. But it wasn't from lack of trying. It's just like, I'm just not a good student. Like, it's just like, I struggle, with school, and I always have. And so like, I have to work harder than a lot of other people to, get the grades that I want to get and whatnot. But man, I'm telling you, like when I say it is the best school in America, like it's the best school in America. I cannot vouch more for that. And it's not just because we have an amazing football team. I'm just saying the people there are so kind. It doesn't matter if you, most of them aren't even from Alabama. Like they're
over
from,
55% or something crazy like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, and then we have international students. I mean, we have kids who turn down like full scholarships from Ivy League schools to come here. It's got an amazing nursing program, engineering. Like when I went there, we were I want to say by the time I left, we were the number one PR program in the country. And everyone likes to shit on, the state of Alabama, like, a bunch of idiots, a bunch of rednecks and everything like that. Like,
love
honestly,
cousins.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Only if they're attractive. All right.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the biggest incest state is actually Florida. So like that joke doesn't work. As we, me and you both live here, but like, but yeah, it's just the best school, man. And it's just, there's nothing like it. People ask me what it's like going to school there. And I'm like, man, it's like going away on a country retreat, a Super Bowl weekend, and Mardi Gras all in one is probably like the best like mix you can put up with it. And so like, it's just so much fun, man. And I love the fact that like I can continue to like go to this great university and like I'm giving them more of my money just because like it just means so much to me, and they're helping me, grow not only as a person, but like as a professional. Which because of this university, I've been able to become, a pretty successful professional in my line of work. I know a lot of people see me as like this fun loving guy who basically like lives on social media and everything like that, but that's not the case. Like I'm actually, I'm a marketing manager and I work 50 hours a week and I run a podcast and I have a dog and I'm back in school and I have a social life and I volunteer doing mental health and suicide awareness. So like, if it wasn't for, the University of Alabama, you're setting me up to be like this, like, I don't know who I'd be as a person.
Right. I fully understand. And that's why it is. And that's kind of why whenever we first were talking about this last week was originally we were talking about, and I was super flattered that you wanted to come on the podcast. It really was. I mean, I've done this for now a year and a half, and I couldn't even believe, anybody watches it. So especially someone who has, a much more successful one. And it meant so much. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But like you said, talking about Alabama, I find a lot of people find it very fascinating because it is such a diehard. And yeah, you have all your other schools, and it's either Alabama's a bunch of inbred idiots or Alabama parties, which I mean, the second one is probably pretty true, but it's more than that. It's more than just raging face, which obviously we all do at an extreme caliber. Yeah. But it was the exact same thing you said. Was whenever I got there, it was kind of lost. I transferred from Texas Tech as well. And that was more of same thing, lost myself, realized I was sitting up there on the fraternity house that I was rushing. Mm-hmm. And I was looking around at all these parties and sitting there just like, and all I'm doing is thinking about what other people are doing. I'm like, dude, if I'm going to spend 3 more years here and all I can think about is what is this person doing? What did that person do on Twitter? Yeah. What is it? I'm going to be miserable. And so, took a leap, went to Alabama, and it was that moment of, I can't even put a finger on it, but when it's just, you kind of sit back and it may be in the middle of a party, maybe just watching football with the boys, where you're just kind of like, dude, I'm happy. And feeling that for the first time is something just incredible, to just be like, you know what, whatever happens in 20 minutes, whatever happens in a year, it's like, I'm happy where I'm at right now. And that's why I loved it. That's why I never wanted to left. That's why I took, victory lap. It's what happens. And it's a different school. If you haven't been, I'd recommend visiting it. If you're thinking about going to college, I would recommend, throwing your hat in the ring. It might be a little tougher than it was when we were getting in, just because the success is insane. And even whenever I was transferring, I was worried. I hadn't heard back whenever we won against Clemson the first time. So I was almost like, in the back of my head, I was like, damn, I kind of hope Alabama, I don't know. Alabama losing might not be the worst thing to happen, because I might get in. I was worried I wasn't going to get in, but that didn't end up happening. But I do want to talk about, and this is kind of the point. That's why the title of this YouTube and audio podcast was made, is Idols to Rivals. And so the point is coming from nothing, coming from, no handouts, working your ass off and creating something that's successful. And that's why I wanted to have you on as our very first guest that has built something that I genuinely look up to. And so kind of would love for you to talk about that process.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. And look, like I listen to your show every week. I do. I subscribe, like I get it. Like I listen to it at work, or when I'm on a road trip. So like, I'm a big fan of like what you do. I love the content you put out. Like I love that it's just you being genuine and just being, talking about like what you're feeling and just being you. And that goes a long way in a lot of things, like what you're doing right now. Like you're young. Look, you're younger than me, and like you're going to figure it out. Like I didn't take a traditional route. Like, dude, I was so lost after I got out of college, man. Like I'm not kidding. Like I went into the military. Like a lot of people don't realize that. Like I was so lost as a person. Yeah. Dude, I didn't know what I was doing. I got my first job out of college in Birmingham, Alabama, making $30,000 a year, living in a shitty studio apartment, and just like, I didn't know. It was honestly like I was back at Florida again, but I didn't know, but I was making money. And so like, it was even scary. Like I'd go to work, and then like, I would just like either go to the bar, or I would eat totally unhealthy. I stopped working out. Like I was just, I couldn't even recognize myself. And so like, and then the company got bought, and I was the youngest person there by about like 10 years. So I lost my job. So like, I have to go back to which my parents moved to St. Simons, Georgia in college, after they moved from LA. So I drove, packed up my truck and packed up my apartment, went to St. Simons, and I just remember sitting there with my mom and dad. I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I don't feel like my life has a purpose like anymore. Like I don't know what I'm doing. And so like I studied marketing and PR, and like all I wanted to do was work in sports. And at that time it was like impossible. Like it really and it still kind of is. And so like I just remember sitting there with my dad and my mom, and I just broke down. And so I made the decision, like my dad, like we sat down and we're like, look, like, why don't we give the military a shot? Like, so, we can talk, they'll repay for your school. Like, you'll have benefits, you'll have structure again, because like, I feel like once I left the fraternity, man, like I lost structure. Like, I think that's why I loved it so much. Like, that's why I love playing sports growing up. It's why I loved actually kind of growing up in a military household, because I had structure. And then in the fraternity too, like I was held accountable, like, like study hours, or just like, like showing up the chapter, and just like, even just like the little things. And I know, like, living in the house too, like you did, like it's just like, there are just certain little things that like you hold yourself accountable to. And when I moved out and like, I just wasn't in school anymore, like I lost all that. So I'm not kidding when I say like, I went on this insane diet, dude. I ran, I did 500 push-ups a day. I ran 5 miles a day, and I ate nothing but brown rice, grilled chicken, and grilled tilapia every day for 6 months, every single day. Didn't drink for 6 months either. I was 6 months sober. Like I did not drink a sip of alcohol. And living in with my parents, like that's kind of hard, because my parents are like big, very social people. So like it was very hard. So like I just like, I went all in it, and, I ended up going, and it was great. And so I just remember, I just remember like putting everything I had into it. And so and then I end up getting hurt, like in the process of, like, I go and I got hurt and I dislocated my kneecap pretty bad. And they were like, hey, like, by the time you rehab it, you're going to be sitting here, like, waiting to basically go through your training again. And so, it was rough too, because I had put in so much work. Like, dude, I gave up my last semester of college to do this. Because, like, I moved home because, like, I got this job while I was in school, and I was doing both.
Really? Still at Alabama?
Yeah. So I got this. Like, I was living in Birmingham, and I was driving back and forth to Tuscaloosa from Birmingham. And so, like, and then I just, like, my last semester, I was just like, I didn't have a place to live in Tuscaloosa in the fall of 2015. I didn't have a place to live. I kind of, like, I was just kind of like a broken person again. And so, like, I just didn't want my friends seeing me that way. So that's why I finished my entire, freshman, or not freshman, my last semester at Bama, like, away from everybody. And it was rough because, like, I feel like to this day, like, a lot of people, like, didn't realize, like, why, because they thought, like, I just up and left, and I abandoned a bunch of people. And so, like, it was kind of hard. And so, like, but it was, again, like, it was what I needed to do to, like, get myself back into shape and, like, get myself mentally ready. So, like, I felt like I gave up everything to, go the military route. So, like, I finished my semester of school, and then I remember December 15th, I left for the Navy, and I was doing great. I was killing it. Like, I went in over prepared, like, physically and mentally. And then I just got hurt, and shit happens. And, like, I got sent home, and at that point, I think I was at my lowest low. Like, I got home, living with my parents again, and then kind of just, like, jumped into, like, this toxic relationship that was never great. And then I was working and bartending and just, like, not being healthy again. And then I kind of just, like, one day, like, realized, like, after, like, 6 months of being home, and I was like, holy shit, like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I was just like, it was actually, I remember too, I got out of the relationship, and I went to the bar. And I just remember it was like a Monday or Tuesday, I got just so sad and so drunk that, like, I walked like a mile home, and I, like, ended up, like, waking up my parents. And so my parents were like, hey, like, we got to figure this out. Like, what's going on? So I remember literally the next day, I ended up getting this job with Southern Tide, the clothing company. And I packed up my truck and I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. And that kind of, like, started my adult life, like, really, like, my professional life. And it was great. And so did that for 3 years or 2 years, and then ended up getting this amazing job with this company called web.com in Jacksonville, Florida, which is, where I am now. And dude, I finally thought I had made it. Like, professionally, I had made it. Like, all this, like, grinding and, like, and just crying, like, blood, sweat, and tears is, like, finally paid off after, what at that time just seemed like a millennium. And dude, and then, like, everything was kind of, like, ripped away from me again, from COVID, which I know I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not going to sit here and, like, cry, like, oh, poor me, like, all this shit, because I know for a fact, like, I am not the only one who went through this. Like, I had this amazing job professionally where I thought I finally made it. And then in 2020 just had it ripped away from me. And I was lucky enough to survive, like, a lot of layoffs. And it got to the point where, my last day was, what was it? December 31st, 2020. And so, like, I went into this year, like, jobless. Like, I finally had, like, this set up job. Like, I was, like, I felt, accomplished. I felt like who I wanted to be professionally, financially, just, like, everything. And I just, I just, like, I lost it again. And I was just like, damn. And so for the longest time, for these last, like, I'd probably say I'd probably say like the last like 7 months. I'd say 6 months. I've been overcompensating a lot, as far as about like who I am, pretending everything's okay, like just trying to like be, just trying to like flex, who I am is like, damn.
In what ways?
Just like acting like everything's good. Like I don't know, just trying to like be this big personality, like this big persona, like the happy-go-lucky guy, just everything like that, and like just pretend everything okay is like, but when behind the scenes everything was not, like it was not okay. Like mentally I was just like distraught. I was stressed, dude. I was unemployed for 7 months, man, and it was rough. Like I was doing freelance jobs and I was doing the podcast. And I honestly think if it wasn't for, me starting the podcast, like I don't know, like what I would be, like where I'd be. And so and now it's like, I'm back at it. Like I'm a marketing director, for a great company. It took months and applying and getting a ton of no's and getting a ton of no callbacks or no second interviews or anything like that. And man, that's like, now I'm at this point right now. And I think it finally has clicked, and maybe it's just because I didn't turn 29. I'm another year wiser, but like, it is okay to get to where you want to be without having a set timeline. And like, I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, like, okay, it took me 29 years to like get with where I want to be. So be it. Like I am, I have grinded more than I think people like half or like, twice as old as I am. Like people who are in the corporate world, who are, just sitting there, kind of got everything handed to them. Like I've never had that. I've never been the best student, so I've had to work twice as hard as other people when it comes to that. I've been told no more times than I've been told yes. And man, it's made me a harder worker. It's made me a better person. It's made me a stronger person. So when it comes to things like that, man, I'm just like, I tell people, especially younger people, like, dude, it's okay to like not be where you want to be right now at your age. Like, I tell people, like, it took me to the age of 27 to get a job to where I was actually proud enough to tell people what I did for a living.
That's a very strong point. It's a very strong point.
Yeah. And I know I kind of went on like a little rant right there, but it's just like, it's true. Like there's such a stigma about like having to be somewhere at a certain point in your life. And I felt that for the longest time, where it's like, I had to own a house by the age of 28, or I had to like start a family by the age of like 30, or like I had to like own this or go on this trip and everything like that, or like just be somewhere. And it's just like, that's not true, like whatsoever. Like if that were the case, like everyone would already have their fucking life, mapped out before it even begins. And it's just like, it's okay to like, to grind. It's okay to like, be like, hey, like I have a shit job right now, but this isn't my end game. Like I'm just doing this job until, like I can get through school, or I can, find that right job or find that right position. So like, I wish I just would have been more, I guess the only we're going to have, I wish I would have been more accepting of my grinding and not be so, embarrassed of it, because there's nothing to be embarrassed about. You're working hard at the end of the day. Like you're trying to make yourself a better person. And as long as at the end of the day, like you're making yourself better and you're doing what the best thing is for you, like there's nothing to hang your head about.
I agree. And I think that is actually, I know for a fact, that is something I struggle with completely. And I think it has to do a lot with, having to do, wanting to be on the social media scene, wanting to do things like this, whether it be the podcast, Instagram, YouTube videos. It is the case of, well, there's an 18-year-old that has 1 million followers and is making this money and blah, blah, and doesn't have to worry about making rent and doesn't have to worry about all this shit. And it's just a lot of comparison. And so I try to bring myself back. I try to listen to, a lot of books, and the mental diet is something that I've never heard it worded like that. And I can't remember who said it, but they talked about, you worry about what you put in your body, but I'm listening to these these podcasts or I'm listening to these people complain. And it's just like, I never thought about what I'm feeding my mind. Yeah. And I realized, if I'm just pumping in, books about, worry about yourself, things are good, positivity and things like that. And, it's not always sunshine and rainbows by a mile. I fully get that. And, but it's whenever you realize if you just stopped for a week and just stopped watching the news, stop scrolling through as much and stop comparing yourself and put some good stuff into your head, it's wild what it could do. And I've always been negative. I've always been a negative thinker. I've always been like, I don't know. It's just, it was one of those things, just how I was born. Just, I'd rather think the worst. And then when it happens, be like, well, I was right. Then think positively. And then it doesn't happen and be like, oh, well, shit never works. Blah, blah. I'd always be like, oh, well, it's not going to work out. And then it doesn't work out because I just wouldn't feed the fire. I wouldn't do what I said I was going to do. And then it would fail. And I'd be like, well, at least I was right. I knew it was going to fail. And it's like, well, you've grown none. You've grown nothing. Yeah. And I almost found, peace in being like the upset guy, being the guy in the bad mood. Like it was almost like how I carried myself. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm always pissed off. I'm never smiling. Like I wouldn't smile in photos because I thought that was like my thing. And that's what I chose for the longest time. And it's just, one day I'm like, why? I'm like, you're whatever age it was, it's still a battle. Like I was saying, it's
still a battle for me too. Like, right. Dude, I get it. Like everyone has this perception of me, especially on social media. And it's probably because I put it on myself as well. And I feed into it. Like everyone sees me as this this wacky, loud, obnoxious, sports guy. And and there are days I am like, I get it. Like, especially like on Saturdays and Sundays when I'm out having fun with my friends and we're drinking or I'm in Tuscaloosa, but like, dude, like no one ever sees like who I actually am as like a person, like especially off screen. Like, dude, like the amount of stuff I do is I could tell you and you would just be like, holy shit, like how? Like, I wake up every morning, I go to the gym, I get ready for work. I'm in charge of people, believe it or not. I am doing this while going to school, while running a podcast, while running sponsors. Like I'm getting ready to sign and do another podcast. I was asked recently. Or not a podcast, but like a live show on Mondays. I'm going to do that. I donate in my time to do a lot of mental health and suicide volunteer work recently in the last couple months. And so that's something I'm very passionate about. And it's still continue to be, and while still trying to have a social life, while now recently trying to get back out in the dating world. Like now you're throwing homework on top of it and everything like that. And I'm just like, dude, like how the fuck is there enough time in the day? And so like, and then you're right. You see these people who are like 18 years old, 19-year-old TikTok stars, and they make what, like $30,000 a week doing, just
doing nothing.
Videos. Yeah. Right. And so like, it makes you jealous. It makes you just like, shit, what did I do wrong in my life? What am I doing wrong in my life right now? Where it's like, why can't I be doing that? And I think about that all the time, man. Like and it is such a bad, toxic trait to have. And lately I've been trying so hard to get out of it because like, I am proud of where I've finally have gotten is comparing myself to almost like any person I meet. And it sucks too. Like and it's just like, even my friends sometimes where it's just like, I'll hear about them doing something. And I'm like, damn, I was like, I don't know, like good for them. Like, I think right now, the main one that like really like irks me, that like gets under my skin is the marriage thing. Just a bunch of, I've had some great relationships. I've had some not great relationships, but at the end of the day, like they never work out. So like, that's something I've been comparing myself a lot to recently, has just been the love aspect of life. But like job wise and success wise, like I've finally have realized that where it's like, hey, I'm where I need to be right now. And I need to just like really, like work on myself and like work on my mental health and everything like that to like, get that last aspect of what you want. So like for you right now, man, like you're young, like you've got like such a drive and fire, and like you have like these, like just, you have what I had like at your age. And that's just like, you just want to go 100 miles an hour and drive, and I get it. And I just highly recommend, like, dude, like right now, just go, just like grind, keep doing what you're doing, like with the podcast, with all the social media stuff you're doing, just, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just throwing yourself in like your passion projects. Like I wish I would have started this podcast that I do years ago, because who knows where I'd have been by now. But like, I'm finally glad that like at the age of 28, when I started it, look what it's turned into. Like, it's turned into something better than I ever could have imagined. And, you started so young, and now it's like, and I can tell it, because like I said, I listen to it weekly. Like you get better with each episode. And so like, and we talked a little bit off air, like it only takes that one listener or that one retweet or that one follow or that one share to change everything. And that's what happened to me. Like, and I couldn't be like, I don't know who it was, but like, I'm so appreciative of it. And so, I highly just recommend it. Be like, look, if you want to start that YouTube channel or that podcast, or hell, you want to make a demo, or you want to start getting into graphic artists, like don't wait like I did. Like don't push it off to the side for years like I did, because you might miss your chance. Like hopefully this is like the right time. Like I waited the right time in my life to do this, to get where I am right now. But like, I'll never know. Like I could have had, this 5 years ago.
Exactly. And I want you to touch on I want me to touch on your podcast. Cause like I said, it's, I look up to it and I see it on Twitter. You're the king of fucking Twitter. And I cannot figure Twitter out. I've got 19 followers and they're all from high school. And I probably I've never spoken to them before. But talk about your podcast, man. Cause this is what Idols to Rebels is about, is fucking shooting your shot. And like you said, that's what I live by. Every time I'm like embarrassed and in my head to post something and like, oh, what are they going to say? It's that one retweet. It's that one like, it's the one person going to their buddy and showing them. And they're like, oh, my dad does whatever they want to do. And then boom, your life's set. So talk to me about the pod.
Yeah, man. It was actually just out of nowhere. So it was last July. It was actually a follower of mine was like, hey, it's like, I'm on a sports comedy podcast. Me and my co-host, I'm wondering if you want to come on and talk some college football. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I was like, I've never really done a podcast before. I don't know really a lot about it. I listen to Part of My Take all the time, but other than that, like, I don't really know a lot. So I told him, I was like, hey, let me get back to you. And then talked to it with a couple of my friends, and they were like, hey, it's like, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. Like, if you suck, you suck. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. So I gave it a shot. Instantly fell in love with it. Instantly loved it. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, I went on there and they were like, this is the first time you've done this. I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're a natural. I was like, and then I sent it to some buddies of mine who work for Barstool, and then some friends who work for Fox Sports and CBS and stuff like that. And they were giving me some tips and pointers, and they were saying like, hey, like you did great, but just work on this, and this. And so then I started getting invited on other people's podcasts. And then I got asked by this network called Belly Up, who I work for now. They were like, hey, do you want to do your own show? And at the time I was like, no, man, I have so much going on with work and layoffs, and I just really need to focus on this. Like, I appreciate it though. And then I found out I was getting laid off, and then I was just looking for something to like throw myself into. And then I ended up, I was like, hey, like, if we do this, I want to do this right. I don't want to half-ass it. Like, I want to do this right. So I like reached out to some people I knew, like connects who I've been able to make over the years from college or just personal passings. And I lined up guests. Like I got the right equipment, and I have gone from recording, by myself, to interviewing, people like Kristen Saban, Paige Kuhn from Bleacher Report, Alabama players, like UFC fighters, like big personalities who I'm just like, I never in 100 years thought I'd ever be doing this. And it was all because like, I just like took a shot and I was like, hey, like, let's do this. And I was terrified my first episode. It was just me and this cheap little mic that I got at Best Buy for like $30
and a blank wall and just talk.
It was a blank wall. And I just remember just like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about. And I went back and I actually like re-listened to my first episode not too long ago. And I was just like, what? I was like, I have just like jumped such a long way. And so, but then like my first guest was,
First guest on what's the name of the podcast?
It's called the Cruz Control Podcast, presented by Belly Up Sport and sponsored by Hornados and quite a few other, sponsors that we got in the works. I can't say anything yet, but like
we can't unfortunately leak anything, but it's very exciting news. And you'll hear about it once you go follow the Cruz Control Podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can listen to it, find it, follow it, and learn something about some fucking sports, baby.
Yeah, and we do try to work in some life too. Like we actually something I'm really proud of that we did recently is we did a mental health episode, and we had this guy named Nick on Nick Miller, and man, we got into some serious stuff, like as far as like just being open with suicide awareness and mental health and all this stuff, because it's actually a pretty big part of sports as well. Like we always forget like these people are human beings, and so like that's probably like my favorite episode we've done. But like we keep it lighthearted. Like we just want people to like come tune in like once a week and just really just come for a laugh or two and learn something you wouldn't. Like we're getting ready to start doing 2 episodes a week starting football season, so that'll be fun. But yeah, man, it's a great time. Like we really enjoy it. Like my co-host Nick Perkins, who my intern Bon has have come in, and they've been great, and I consider them family, and it's been something that like I never thought like I would actually ever have the courage to do, or it would grow to like what it's grown into, and it's only getting bigger. Like dude, when I found out I was getting sponsored by a tequila company, I about cried. I'm not kidding. Like I I got a text message and I thought it was a sick joke. And then like I got my Venmo from it, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is fucking cool. And I got like, it was just so overwhelming, because I'm just like, I was like, damn, dude. I was like, this is like what I want. Like, look, I'll put it like this. If I can make half of my salary that I make professionally, like right now, I will literally quit tomorrow and I'll just do the podcast full time.
Really?
Like, yeah, because it makes me so happy doing it. Like right. I look forward to recording every week. I look forward to seeing my 2 family members every week to record. It makes me happy. Like I wish I could throw everything I can into it, and I have for a lot of it. But like, obviously like I have life and I have bills and I have student loans, and I have to, I want to, start a family and I have to save for the future. And so I can't right now, but man, like I have a number in my head that if I can make that annually, like I will literally quit my job the next day. Wow. It means that much to me. And so like, and I have a lot of things planned for the future this year that I'm really excited to announce very soon. As far as, working with different networks and celebrities in the sports world that I've had the pleasure of connecting with through this podcast. And so like, I don't think that dream is very far off for me. And I have a lot of people who aren't happy about like the success that I'm having with the podcast. And that's how I've kind of known like, hey, like I'm doing something right.
Exactly. If no one's talking about you, then no one's thinking about you. And what are you really doing? And I think it's so awesome to watch, so awesome to see. And, like you said, there's been no handouts. Your dad isn't the CFO of MSNBC, or he's got an in with Instagram. So your photos get bumped or your posts. Like this is straight from fucking Tuscaloosa to a military adventure to fucking getting laid off at the beginning of this year. We're in August. It was the beginning of this year. Yeah,
dude. Man, it was nuts. I started doing this in December, and I just kind of, like I said, I threw everything into it. Like I'll occasionally get like a text from my mom and dad, be like, oh yeah, like we were driving and we were like, oh, I guess we'll turn on Cruz's podcast. Like they don't listen religiously. And it's actually like, it's been so great too. Like just having like the interaction I've had with people on social media about the podcast, about like, hey, like, great episode this week, or hey, it's like I had no idea like this was a thing. And then so like I made it like a big point to be very interactive with the people who listen to our show on a weekly basis, and our numbers are growing every week. And so like, and I love it. It's like a goal. Like I was like, hey, it's like this episode got more listens than this one. Like fuck that. Like all right, we're gonna do better this week. So I'm setting like personal goals, and then I hold Nick, my co-host, accountable. Like, hey, I was like, hey, I need you to bring your shit this week, or I need you to like really brush up. And same my intern, as far as he goes, like I know he's still in college, and he's kind of figuring out what it is professionally, and I'm trying my best to like get him prepared. But like, dude, it's like and you can relate too, because like when you record, it's like an escape. Like it's just like nothing else matters right now. Like you kind of just like zone out, and like you kind of just get away from life for a little bit. And it's just kind of nice. Like, and then the moment you hit stop recording, you're like, ah, shit. I was like, I got to go back to responsibilities.
It is. You think about like, oh, got to do the laundry, got to fucking go take a shower. It's like, it is. It's like freedom is almost how I see it. And I think that's why, at the beginning, whenever it was just, the first what was it? The first 50 episodes, I think it was, that I was literally talking to a wall, just ranting for 25 minutes just until I was out of breath. And it's just, and maybe overshare, maybe not, who gives a fuck. It was just, it was about getting it all out on the table. So it's just like, now I don't have to worry about it anymore. Now that it's out, I don't have to worry about a damn thing, because it is, anyone can go listen to whatever you want to on the podcast. And that was something that was so scary. And I knew I was like, I needed to do it. And as soon as I did it, I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like
that's great. Yeah.
You say the things that are deepest to you. And like, I love that we got to get, deep on this episode, and just whenever you let it go, it's just like, it doesn't control you anymore, or it loses a little bit of its power. And that was something that I can't explain it. That's why I said for a long time, the podcast was just kind of my way of venting, or my way of journaling, is kind of how I put it for a while. But dude, it's as soon as you hit record, it's like, the kind of the lights dim around you. It's just kind of like, we're here right now. And with adding another person is a game changer.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
It changes everything. And if you don't think so, trust me, try to talk for 20 minutes, do 15 minutes even.
I did. Well, hold on. Well, my first episode,
tell me it was like an hour and just showing my ass up.
Oh my God. No, I don't think it was an hour, but I'm like trying to remember, like I went on one for a while. Because like, I remember it was conference championship week. And so I've done 37 episodes so far, which is insane to think. My first episode was December 16th, 2020. It was 33 minutes was my first episode. Just me. And then I had and then I started having guests on, which was a big one, but it was still just me. So I would talk for a while. And then I would have guests on for the last half of the show. And so it was just, but I get what you're saying, man. It's so hard to like, to just like kind of ramble on yourself. But then when you start doing it, it just flows so naturally, right? Like you don't even realize, like you feel like you're actually having a conversation with somebody else, and you realize like, oh no, it's just me talking to me.
It is. And you'll see it even on the videos. And I used to do these like whenever, because I didn't know, before I knew Zoom was a thing, we're learning on this podcast, as I always say, and dude, I would do them live on YouTube. So not only was it like I'm having a full-blown conversation with myself, it's like, dude, if I fuck up, like if I say something just out of like ridiculous, or say something I didn't want to tell, it's like, it's gone. Like it's out there forever. Like I'll be dead one day. It'll still be on the internet. It's having that also play in your head was tough. But yeah, it is. It's like I freak about it so much. I'd write like 3 sentences down, and then it would just be like, I'd go off on these tangents. And then you kind of look back and you're like, look at the clock in the corner. You're like, dude, it's been like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I know what I talked about, but I kind of don't at the same time. It was.
See, but I like it when you get on those rambles though. Cause like, dude, like there was one episode too. I remember it was like when I first started listening to your show. It was actually the episode you shouted me out on. When I first started my podcast, I remember we had just started talking about, talking shop. And I just remember like hearing you go on this rant. I'm like, damn, this dude is spitting some like straight up facts right now. Like I was like, and I wish I'll have to go back and listen to it, because I just remember just like I was driving home late at night. I wanted to go see my parents, and I'm just sitting there listening. I'm like, dude, I was like he's getting into it. And so like, and you get on these like, and I don't call them rants. You just get like in this like certain zone that you get in. And it's just like, it's just so hard to explain, because it just sounds so educated, and it sounds like you're like reading off a prompt, but like you're just flowing so well. And so like, and I guess when you get in a rhythm, you just don't want to stop. So like, I get it. But like, I got to ask you something, man, like with this podcast that you're doing, and everything you're doing with it. Like, is there like, do you have an end game for it? Like, do you have like, what is there like something that you feel like you'll know, like it'll be a game changer for you, or like anything like I can like try and help out with, or anything like that? Cause like I said, I'm a big fan of your podcast. I've like introduced people to it. I love it. I love what you do. And like, obviously if there's anything I can ever do to help, like I will definitely will. But like, what would taking this podcast to the next level like look like for you?
For me would be it comes back to, I try to use, again, I know I've mentioned the title about 15 times, but that was always something that stuck with me. I think it was from a movie. It was somebody who's like, or it might've been from a rapper or something like that. It was like, keep working until your idols become your rivals. And I visualized that. I was like, shit, if I'm sitting at the table, like competing with these people I look up to, whether it be business wise, whether it be whatever it is, then I'm like, fuck, I'm at a different level. And I always, you know, still do have these feelings of grandeur and just like this calling, I guess is a word. I don't really like that word, but I have this feeling of just like, you know, you're meant for so much more. And, you know, the end game obviously is to do this full time. I love video is more my what I love. You know, I love the visual aspect of it. I appreciate, you know, TV, cinema, just for what it can do to you, the stories it can tell you. And, you know, storytelling has been the thing forever. And that's why I think I love this so much, is it just straight up is telling stories. It's talking about stories. It's getting, you know, getting the people's experiences, getting the life advice. And, you know, we have a different aspect of it. Like we're, for lack of a better term, we're immortal. Like this is going to live past us, you know, as long as the internet doesn't go away. Like it's weird to think about, somebody could be watching this right now and we've been dead 100 years.
Yeah.
So I take that as a blessing, as like a wow, like, you know, it means something, you know, we're all stardust on a, you know, flat earth or whatever it may be. But
yeah,
no, success for me would be able to do this full time, to be able to, the way I've verbalized it is like to wake up whenever I want and go to bed whenever I want, and just not have, you know, somebody hounding you, do this, do that. And just freedom is the big thing. I always wondered what it was. And for a long time, it was money. For a long time, it was like, oh, I want to make a fucking $1 billion, which I still do. But I realized that wasn't the last step in the process. The last step was freedom, being able to say, hey, I want to go here today. I want to do this. But the big thing is helping people. And that's why the first 49, 50 episodes I did were solo, aside from a couple of my friends coming on the podcast. It was just like shit I wanted to hear. Yeah. And shit I needed. It was basically me telling myself what I needed to hear. It was reading quotes in a book or whatever it may be, and saying it out loud. And then as soon as I say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, why haven't you implemented this? And I'd stop and kind of think about it. How could I implement that? But dude, just being able to, like, I think I know that I've done something if someone came up and was like, hey, like you changed the way I thought. And I started painting, even though my parents didn't want to. You know what? I saved up, I sold my bike because my dad wanted me to bike, and now I play the violin and I'm fucking killing it. And I do it as a profession. That would be success, as if someone came up and said that would be.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. I love that. I love that just mindset. And it's so great that you have it. And I know you don't feel young, but you are young. And it's so great to have it at that age. Like, I wish I would have. Like I said, even recently, like I've had issues like with where it's like money is the most important thing in the world. And it don't get me wrong, it is. Like, money is obviously how we live on a day-to-day basis, but like I lost sight of like what's actually important in life. And that is joy. That is, you know, having good mental health. That's having people around you who love and care, who actually love and care about you. And just, you're just like being able to wake up in the morning just happy. Yeah. Like that is probably like something that I have taken for granted for the last couple of years. And so like I when I wake up happy in the morning, dude, I just like, that's when I thrive. It's when I have my best days, like where it's like, hey, like nothing else matters today. Like I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to get a good workout in. I'm going to play with my dog. I'm going to have a kick-ass day at work. And yeah, so it's like, don't get me wrong. Like I would love to like wake up one morning and just have like $1 billion in my bank account. But you know, like I've just come to the point, and it's been a long time coming where it's like, hey, like money can only make you so happy. And so I've just become like just this huge proponent of spiritual things, like being like what actually matters to me. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine like not being a bougie ass person. Like it's just not, I never been a bougie ass person. I've always been like a experience kind of person. Like I like, I enjoy spending the time with my friends. Like even if we just go do trivia at a bar instead of like going on some like big ass like fancy vacation where I had to max out a credit card or something like that. So it's like, as long as you have that mindset and what makes you happy at the end of the day, and I know what makes me happy at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right?
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a great note to end on is happiness, man. Fucking, that's what it is. And I'm still, I still have my battles where I'm like, and we all do, but it is at the end of the day, if your friends have more money and they're vacationing and doing all this and left and right, dude, we all know those people that are living the life that we want to live, but they're sending in the group chat how pissed off they are that fucking they got, whatever happened, their water wasn't hot enough today. It's like, that's no way to live, dude. And just as soon as you can realize that's the goal is happiness and not money. And that's coming from someone that's all I've lived and breathed was I want every dollar in the world. And it's just, I'm learning myself as I speak on this podcast more and more that it's just like, that shit doesn't mean a thing. Yes, you need money. Yes, of course it can lead to so many good things if done right. It's just, remember the root of it is, dude, if you're happy sitting on the beach, making puka shell necklaces, ain't no one to say shit to you. And no one can.
Yeah. Or sitting drunk on a beach, tweeting all day. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's the little things in life.
It's the little things. It's the little things. And hey, we're all learning. We're all evolving. But Cruz, I appreciate so much for being on the podcast. Everyone go check out the Cruz Control Podcast. Give it a listen. Give it a follow on everything. And hopefully this won't be a one-time occurrence. And our paths will be intertwined for a long time. I can already tell. As soon as we had that talk off air a couple of days ago, I knew that this was the beginning of quite a few things.
Oh yeah, man. Like anytime you ever want me on or you want me to, come co-host with you or vice versa, like, don't hesitate to ask. So I'll find time to make it happen. I'm definitely going to have you on the Cruz Control Podcast. I'd love to have you on. I'm sure Nick would too. So like I said, man, I see nothing but bright things in your future. I think this is just the beginning for you. I love the show. I'm going to continue to listen. But you just keep doing what you're doing, man. Yeah, I'm very proud of you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Again, the Cruz Control Podcast, look it up, give it a follow. Love everybody out there. Make sure you're getting after it. Shoot that shot. Like we said, you're one picture away. You're one painting away. You're one thing away. And that's the crazy part about this world. And that's why, it's so exciting. But appreciate everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with a regularly scheduled program and get after it.